How are we doing tonight? Holy cow, we already got 27 people. I don't usually get 27 people the whole time I do one of these. Where did they go? I'll chat. I know there was some. There we go. Thing is, when it takes the thumbnail picture for these live streams, it only uses like a little tiny square in the center of the screen, so I can't get my arm far enough away for it to get the whole face. So I just kind of went with it. Well, welcome tonight. Let's see. It is September 3rd, I believe. It's been a long time since I've done a live stream. Probably, gosh, the last one I think was for my 200th video and 10,000 followers, which was back in July. So it's been a while, so I felt like I needed to do one again. I was hoping to be in a tractor, but that didn't happen. Probably could have been tonight, but so I'm gonna do it this way. So, how's everybody doing tonight? Hans, after replacing the worn-out unload auger last season, one would think that there are a lot of hours on the combine. Any plans on upgrading? So our combine has, gosh, I'm trying to remember, somewhere around 2,300 engine hours, I believe. And so plans on upgrading, not going to happen this year. Obviously, we're going to run the existing combine this year, and we'll probably try and run it again another year. There is potential that maybe we could upgrade, but with as dry as things have been and grain prices are terrible, and I don't think our yields are going to be great, it's probably not in the cards for next year. So we've kind of been on about a 7-year rotation with combines. This will be the 7th year that we've run this one, so it's about that. A little late here. It is 9:15, so I had to wait till my kids were in bed to start, so that's why we're getting the 9:15 start tonight. Ohio. I'm in Ohio. How is it up north? Well, up north is relative, yes, but things are good. Things have gone, but had enough moisture to get our cover crops planted, most of them this week, so still working on that. Was doing some ripping today with the big 2730 ripper, and hopefully we'll get the rest seeded. I don't know if it'll happen tomorrow, but thanks for checking in, man. $7.99. Thank you. Wow, that's awesome. Why only an 8-row corn head? I can answer this. So, one, it matches up really well with our 16-row corn planter, which also matches up. So we're not really on a controlled traffic pattern, but we do have most of our stuff on 40-foot centers, I guess we'll say. So our corn planter is 40 foot, our bean planter is 40 foot, head is 40 foot, our sprayer is 120 foot, which is basically 3 40-foot planter passes, and the corn head being 20 foot is half of that. And the way that the tires on the combine line up with the tire tracks from the planter and stuff, we are always in the wheel tracks, which I like, and it helps. That said, the biggest reason that we only have an 8-row corn head is because we can't keep the corn away from an 8-row, so keeping it away from a 12-row would be that much bigger of a problem. We've upgraded our drying and our grain system stuff so that we could handle it a little bit more, but we still can't truck it fast enough, and we'd have to hire people, we'd have to buy more trucks, whatever the case may be. We can go about as fast as we can go with an 8-row, so 12-row doesn't gain us much. Now I have made the argument that we could run a 12-row and just shut the combine down, right? And put less hours on the combine and less wear and tear on that and everything, although you're still running the same bushels through it, so I don't know if that would make a big difference. So I could see that argument, but then it's 12-row with a 16-row head, and things don't match up near as good. And to go to a 16-row is just completely impractical and unnecessary. So while it would be nice at times to go to a 12-row corn head, I don't foresee that happening anytime soon. Still irrigating. So I am not irrigating at the moment. We had 1.2 inches of rain last Friday night, Saturday morning, and so it's been cooler this week. The corn's not using water as fast. We still got pretty good moisture from that rain, and so I have not started the irrigation stuff back up since that one. I'm really hoping that we can catch a rain sometime in the next few days, and we'll be done. The corn's not finished yet, but it's getting closer, and we're getting closer to that point where I would feel comfortable saying there's enough moisture there to finish the crop off and get us to black layer. But it's going to take one more rain. So hopefully that happens here in the next 4 or 5 days. If not, we'll probably make one more pass. 112 in Vegas today. Nope, don't want nothing to do with that. Brandon, just my water tonight. Which, by the way, this live stream will last as long as my water does. That's my plan. I have Instagram. I do have Instagram at Borderview Farms. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook. I don't post often, but I do try and post fairly regularly, at least on Instagram. YouTube's my medium, but I'm trying to learn the other ones as well. Utah, welcome. Then right up the road from your farm all week delivering feeder pigs. So yeah, who's getting feeder pigs? From Florida. Yield goals on corn and beans. Good question. Honestly, it's pretty up in the air right now. I feel like our beans have looked really good. We just haven't had enough August rains to have a super crop. And so if we can average 50 on our beans, I think we'll be pretty happy. Maybe could be a little better than that. Maybe be a little worse than that. I don't really know. We'll see. Corn, man, some of our corn looks good despite how dry it has been. So I don't know. Optimistically, I want to say we'll average 175. But if we're over 150, I think we better take it and be happy this year, as dry as we were. So, on a normal year or going into a year, we would try and hope that we would average in that 170 to 180 range. We might be able to get that this year. Some of our corn will be better than that. Some of it will be worse than that. I don't know how much of each there is. How much does the cover crop seed cost? Yeah, so we're using this oats and radish blend, and it's 90-10, 40 pounds to the acre. I'd have to do a little bit of math, but it's costing us, I think, $30 a unit, $30 per 50 pounds for the seed itself. So what's that? 4/5 of 30 would be 24, 25 bucks an acre, something like that. What water rights do we have for irrigating? So we live in an area that water is abundant. So we don't have to worry about water rights or any of that. I don't know where you're from, but I know out west in Nebraska, Kansas, that's a big issue. Colorado. I don't know about other countries and different places around the world, but at least in our area, we don't have to really have permission to use the water. So we could drill a well and pump as much water as we want, or we can do what we're doing and pump out of the river, and we pretty much can take whatever we want. In Michigan, we have to report it. So there's no prior approvals needed or anything. We just have to tell the state at the end of the year, hey, this is how much water we pumped this year. If we were pumping out of Ohio, which we're not, but I don't think there's any reporting necessary in Ohio. Yeah, go like the video. Thanks, guys. Do you have the auto steer feeler on the corn head? Yes, we do. We have RowSense, John Deere's version of auto guidance for corn heads on our corn head, and that's really nice. Did your mom have the bird solution? Yeah, so I ended that video last night because my boys were coming to the farm to go see my mom for her birthday yesterday, and she wasn't there. They didn't get to see her at the farm. Turns out she was at her friend's down the road. They stopped there on the way home and got to see her, but I did not actually see my mom yesterday. By the time we waited around for an hour and a half after calling her and she didn't answer, I never saw her. But I think she did. Can you only store soybeans for a year? If so, what happens to it and why? So I assume you mean the grain side of soybeans. You could store it longer as long as the moisture is good and they're staying in condition okay. But generally, there's a lot of dollars tied up in grain and grain bins, whether it's soybeans or corn or whatever. You got to cash it out to pay your farming, and you're going to retire and you want to hold on to grain for a long time and play the grain markets game. You can do that, but you just got to make sure that everything's okay and not getting hot, heating up, spoiling, getting any moisture in it, that kind of stuff. So yeah, you can keep it longer, but you just got to keep a closer eye on it, especially in the summer months when it's hot. Grain stores through the winter really well because it's cool. It's not going to spoil. So I'm doing well today. Yep, that's what I thought, Matt. I figured it was probably them. Did they cancel your county fair because they canceled mine in Florida and I show pigs in it? Yeah, as far as I know, they've been canceled. I guess I haven't heard anything officially. Our county fairs, both of them, because so we're right on the state line, obviously. And I grew up in Michigan. Our county fair in Hillsdale County is always like the last fair ever. It's the last weekend in September, or last week in September, and half the time it spills into October. So I thought they might still try and do it now. Theirs is always like 2 weeks before that, so a full week after Labor Day it starts usually. And as far as I know, that one's been canceled as well. What's more NAT user? Yeah, so NAT, for those of you who don't know, that's my farmer Facebook group that we're part of. It's just the online forum chat question answer board thing, bulletin board, I guess you call it. It's called New Ag Talk. Baker NA4 is my username on there. So I comment sometimes, not very frequently anymore. It just depends on what's on there and if there's any topics that I know anything about, basically. How was your field day? Yeah, so nobody came. Nobody came to my field day, which is fine. I don't care. It was a little disappointing because I did put some work into that, hoping that a few people would show up anyway. But the timing, the 8 o'clock in the morning video presentation was poor timing. I knew that. I thought some guys would come between that and lunch to check out the plots and stuff. Nobody did. I did have one of my customers text me 2 days later on Thursday that week and asked me what time lunch was, and I had to tell him it was 2 days ago. So at least somebody was planning on coming, just got their days wrong, but no big deal. So, all right. Is your 8-row corn head chopping or just stalk rolls? It is a non-chopping head. Initially, when we bought it new, it came with opposed knife rolls on it, but last year was the first year we ran it with, we put the Yield 360 chain rolls on, and I really like those, so that's what we run there. Hello from North Dakota. Combining navy beans today. Cool. Never been around any edible beans, dry beans, any of that specialty stuff on harvest. So are you swathing or direct farm? As far as tractors, we've got a 9510R. That's the one I've been running the field cultivator and the ripper with here. Was in it today all day. My great uncle was kind of spewed over water rights. Wow, no good. Why do people have their private growing places near you? Well, because they can. I got caused a little heated conversations with that one, didn't I, a couple days ago? We're not gonna get into that too much, but basically that's what the law in Michigan is. If you can have a Class A license and have up to 100 plants, and it's got to be in a private locked up area, fence, something, indoors, whatever. It is what it is. You excited to pick up a mile of pipe? I am not excited to pick up a mile of pipe, which is kind of, yeah. I need to make the call on whether we're done irrigating or not fairly soon. And if we are, go up there and start breaking it apart so that it drains out. Because everybody talks about laying irrigation pipe like it's the worst thing. Laying it's the easy part. It's empty and dry when you lay it. When you're picking it up, you're working in mud and it's full of water and it sucks. It's no fun at all. So it's not quite a mile, at least. It's only 3/4. IVT or Powershift? I prefer IVTs in general. We only have, well, I guess 2 tractors that have an IVT in them, our 7520 and our 8R. 830 and the 9R are both power shifts, and they're good. They're fine. I like the IVT and the 8R a lot better. It's just smoother. I'm better at operating that. But yeah, I can go either way. Glad you're enjoying the videos. What's going to be the first to harvest corn or beans? Beans for sure. No doubt about it. It's going to be beans. They're turning rapidly. I would estimate we're 2.5 to 3 weeks away from harvest. Back in the middle of August, my first guess was September 20th that we would be combining, and I'm sticking with that for right now. I think it's going to be about the 20th of September, which is a little bit on the early side for us, maybe 5 to 7 days early. What moisture do you prefer when start shelling corn? As far as corn moistures go, well, it really depends. So typically, generally, we would start with beans. We'll combine all of our beans, provided they're all mature and ready, and then we'll start corn. Now, usually that goes back and forth a little bit in the middle. We'll start with beans, then we'll go do a little corn, then we'll come back to beans, then we'll go back to corn, and we'll see. If all of our corn was 18 or below, I'd be thrilled. But I'll start combining once we get to 20 to 22% on a normal year. Last year we didn't have anything get that dry ever. So you do what you got. If we get done with beans and the corn's dry, you start combining it anyway, because eventually there's a weather factor and timing. But yeah, ideally we'd start at 20, 22% moisture on corn. I don't really like it getting a whole lot below 18, because then you get a lot of shatter loss and stuff, which is no good. All right. We direct cut them. Nice. 1,000 acres of navies and 200 pintos. That sounds like a lot to me, but I guess I don't really know much about dry bean production. Usually specialty crops, you don't do thousands of acres. You do maybe a couple of hundred of acres, but I guess they're not that specialty. Hey, Michael, welcome. Landscaping. Really, if you know about the landscaping project in my home, you saw the last live stream when I talked about it, and I haven't done anything since then. So there's not much to update you on. Few videos back, you're spraying a neighbor's beans with water hemp. Yep. Is that the first ones you've seen in the area? I this year than what I've seen in the past. I know that other areas of the country deal with water hemp really, really bad. I've heard all about it, but up until a year ago, I could not have told you what a water hemp looked like. And the only reason I could tell you last year was because I went to a field day 100 miles south of here, and they had them there. And so when they showed up this year, I kind of knew what I was looking at, and it's bad this year. I mean, you can tell the guys, the farms or the fields that had a residual good pre-emerge residual herbicide spray on them, and the ones that relied on 2 shots of Roundup or an early burn down and no residuals, because that didn't work. How much do you have to do to prepare for harvest? Not a lot, but we do have some stuff to do. So we've got to get our concaves back in the combine. We got those all fixed up from Condex, our aftermarket concaves. And then there's a few settings on the combine. That's no big deal, but I do want to go through the bean head yet before harvest. I have a feeling I need to replace a couple of draper belts, so that's going to be a priority here real quick. My plan for next week, basically, to get that stuff ready to go and figure out what exactly I need to get, if I need to order some parts and stuff for it. So outside of that, we've got to hook the grain cart back up when we get ready for that. But that shouldn't need much. Maybe some greasing, but nothing too big a deal there. My Uncle Phil is working on the drills right now, getting them ready to plant wheat. So as soon as we start combining beans, we'll start planting our wheat crop for next year. Right behind that, which is the other big thing that I've got to do, is treat wheat. So I've got that treater. You guys watched me do all the soybeans last year, and I also do all of our wheat and some for neighbors and some of my customers. So that is quickly moving up the priority list and getting that stuff done here in the next week, 2 weeks really, because it's going to take me a while. But that's most of it. Outside of that, I don't think there's a lot I have to do to get ready for harvest. We've been doing a little bit of stuff to the grain system, and Phil's been working on semi-trucks, just making sure everything's ready to go, but that stuff's pretty well done. What do you guys do to try and prevent cracking in your beans when storing them and harvesting them? Well, it's not a huge issue for us. Splits are not a great thing when you're harvesting or hauling them in, but we're not raising seed quality beans, so a few is not the end of the world. The biggest thing you can do to prevent them, in my opinion, is to harvest them at a higher moisture. Don't let them get down to 10, 11%, which is admittedly hard to do when the weather's not cooperating or when it's super hot and dry. But as far as any special handling things, no, we don't do anything. Came with Green Bin Tour. Yeah, I know you guys have been asking for that. I'm sorry that I haven't done it. It's just one of them things that it's easier to do during harvest. So kind of been waiting until we're in harvest before I explain to you how our grain systems work. Are you going to miss the irrigation routine? Not at all. I am so tired of irrigating. Like I can't even tell you guys how tired of that I am. And I haven't done it for the last week. But man, it just, like, I've done it so much more this summer than I have at any other year since we bought that system. We bought it in 2013. And the most I'd ever put on a field before this year was 3 inches. And really that was only half the field. It was like 2.5. This year, the whole field has gotten 5, and it's on more acres than we usually do, or than we do any year that we're not in that field. So it's been a lot of work. When I do make that call, either when we're done or when I decide that we're done, I'll give all the stats on how many runs and acres and gallons and all that stuff. But it's been, oh, I'm tired of it. Talked high-speed planters previously, but didn't think it was worthwhile. Do you think that once your dad, uncle retire, it might be worth it? Potentially. The thing is, so I don't know when that's going to happen. You start talking about some of the long-term planning and succession planning and stuff, and I'm not going to get into the details on that, but yeah. So right now it's me and my dad and my uncle, and I like to think that we split the workload fairly evenly. They might not think that, but we all have our jobs to do, and we do them, and we get everything done. They're going to slow down. Now, maybe by slow down, it might be die, because they might not retire. They're just going to farm until they die. So hopefully that's a while from now. Yeah, it's going to be an issue, right? Labor for me, because I'm by myself. I don't have any brothers that are interested in farming. I don't have any brothers. I don't have any brother-in-laws that are interested in farming. And Phil, my uncle, who farms with us, he doesn't have any kids. And so there's not anybody else in my generation to do anything until my kids are old enough. So we're going to have quite a gap there before they're, able to take over that role. And if they even want to. So what do? I don't know. It's probably going to involve some employees and hiring some people, and we'll deal with that bridge when we get to it. High-speed planters and being able to do things more efficiently is certainly something that's worthwhile looking at. Honestly, right now, the thing that I would like to do that I think would save me a ton of time is that Anhydrous Bar. I think that John Deere high-speed Anhydrous Bar, where I can get that done in half the time that it takes me now, would save me so much time in that critical window between planting and wheat harvest, and allow me to get some equipment cleaned up and put away and things done that I can't do now. I just don't have time. That's something we should be looking at now, regardless. So, I don't know. But yes, that's going to be an issue at some point. Which answers the next question. Update on a new Anhydrous Bar. Haven't done anything yet. Still kind of kicking that idea around. But as I said, crop prices and yields are still not looking so hot. And if we get into harvest and things are better than we expect, then we'll talk about it. Usually that's how it works. We don't buy equipment in the middle of summer very often or make any kind of purchase commitments. It's usually a late fall, early winter thing where we'll look at how the year went and decide, all right, do we have the money to upgrade some stuff this year? If so, what? Sorry. Anyway, my sister has moved up to Lansing for college, more so to get out of the house with my parents, I think, which wouldn't you want to when you're 20 years old? So she's gone. Probably won't be in any video. Well, she might be. She's coming home this weekend, but we'll see. How about interviewing your dad? Yeah, someday we might get to that, but see, my dad's kind of funny with this YouTube thing. Like, I think he thinks it's dumb, but he doesn't care. Like, he's like, fine, whatever. And so I kind of feel like I can't film around him a whole lot, but at the same time, he'll always tell me things like, oh, you should come and film this, or you should see this. Or like last week when we were pulling out that tractor that got stuck, like, I don't think he liked that I was doing it in the run, so you had a side view. I'm like, well, yeah, that would have been good, but do you remember how you were not happy in the moment? We were trying to get it done. So, I mean, that was big enough that I knew I needed to film it, but I was trying to be somewhat, not discreet, but just like non-obtrusive, just like, let's get it and get done here. So anyway, long answer to would I like to do an interview with him? I could see doing a farm history video or something that I think would be good, and you guys would enjoy that. And I think he might enjoy talking about that kind of stuff too. So I won't rule it out, but don't look for it in the near future. Am I done with irrigation? I don't know yet. I really think we need another rain before I can make that decision. But I'm not irrigating right now. The unloading auger on the combine going to be repaired before harvest begins. Unload auger is all done, and yeah, so I don't know if you're referring to my video from last fall where stuff broke, and haven't seen more recent stuff, but last fall we stripped out some splines on a shaft on one of the unloading augers and had major breakdown there with, like, I don't know, 60, 70 acres of corn left to harvest. That has all been repaired. We fixed what we needed to get done, and then did the rest of it in the shop in the winter, so that system should be good to go. I do have some lights that need replaced. That's another thing. The light on the unloading auger and the back of the combine were burnt out during wheat harvest. North Dakota, edibles are a big crop along with corn, soybeans, and sugar beets. Yeah, I knew you guys raised a lot of that stuff out there. It's very similar to the thumb of Michigan, where we do a lot of sugar beets and dry beans and there's a lot of potatoes. There's a lot of things in Michigan, but I knew that North Dakota and the thumb there were kind of similar in what they grew. Why don't you guys have pivot irrigation? Yeah, so I would love to have a pivot. I would love to have a few pivots. There's not any around us outside of a couple of dairy farms that use them to get rid of their wastewater. And so the reason that we don't have them is because we don't need them. We can still raise a crop without water. As you'll see this fall, our crops, as dry as we were this summer, they're still going to be there. They're not going to be complete and total failures. Our ground is not that sandy, and we can hold on to some moisture in our clay, especially in our clay subsoils. And so when irrigation is not necessary to raise a crop, it's hard to spend the dollars to invest in an irrigation system, which is why we bought a Traveler when we did, because it was a cheaper way to try it and to prove the concept that it works. This is the driest year we've had since then. It's the hardest I've had to work doing it since we bought it, and so I think this is the year that's going to prove to us that it works. Now, when I say it works, I know that watering crops works. I get that. But the question was, can we consistently and effectively get big enough in? I think we have, but again, it's not generally going to be 100 bushel per acre increase like it is in Southwest Michigan, where they have more sandy soil. So I'm not going to say we won't have pivots. I would love to, and I would like to do that sooner rather than later, but they're a huge investment when we have other things that we need to buy. Okay, where are we at? Do stray corn plants in a soybean field screw up a bean head when harvesting? No, so that would be referred to as volunteer corn. Basically, it's kernels that got dropped on the ground when we were combining the previous year, and then they grew this year. The bean head will just cut them right off and run it through the combine. You may get a couple of kernels in the grain tank if there's any ears on them, but no, not really an issue. The bigger issue is if they get too thick, they will affect your bean yields because they'll steal moisture and soybeans that are around them. Fixed rear lights on the 7520. I have not. Haven't taken the time to do it. It's probably going to happen this winter, so yeah, it is what it is. Do you think you will hit close to the 250, 300 bushels on the irrigated ground? I know that there are spots in that field that are going to push 300 bushel plus. Whether or not we can average it on the whole field, I don't know. I would love to see 250 average on that field. The last time we irrigated corn up there, we were at 237. So we were close, but not quite there. It's been a lot drier this year, so I don't know if we'll be able to get quite to that or not. But it should, the whole field, even the non-irrigated portions of that field should, with mixed in with everything, we should average like 225 plus, I would think. I'll probably be pretty disappointed if it's not at least that. But there will be areas in the good spots in that field that were watered that'll be running over 300. I'm confident of that. Are you guys planning on demoing an 8RX tractor? Well, I mean, I won't say no, but it's not like you can just call John Deere up and be like, hey, you guys want to bring an 8RX out for me to demo this fall? They don't do that. So no plans to do that. Although I would love to drive one. Hello from Illinois. Thank you. Tennessee, thank you. Maybe Anhydrous Bar and strip till could go hand in hand. Maybe, but we're not in an area where you can put fall anhydrous on. So there's no way, no how that I would do fall anhydrous and make do strip till in the fall. So I don't see those two working very well together in our area. We get too much rain, too much snow, too much moisture, and too warm of temperatures to do fall anhydrous. I would not try it. Tennessee again, Kansas, welcome guys, thanks. Any chance you will try to demo a new X9 combine? Again, you can't just call John Deere up and be like, hey, why don't you bring an X9 out for me to demo this fall? So, again, I would love to, but it's not going to happen. Although I have heard a rumor, and maybe I'm not even supposed to say this, but I have heard a rumor that in the fall of 2021, a whole year from now, there may be one to demo at that point. I don't know, but not going to happen. Have you thought about irrigating any other fields? Well, so that's part of the thing with the traveling gun irrigation is that it's mobile, so we don't have to irrigate the same field every year. So next year, when the field that we irrigated this year is soybeans, I can pick a different field and still irrigate corn, which you can't do with a pivot. So that's yes, we do irrigate other fields, but it's only ever one field per year. It's just a matter of which field every year. You look really old. Thanks. I think. Thanks, Michael. Denmark, welcome. Cedarville, Ohio. I don't know where Cedarville is. You thought of doing cover crop mix with sunflowers from Niagara Falls, Ontario. We have not. There are a few places around that do use some sunflowers in their cover crop blends. I don't know how that would work. I don't know if planting it this time of year they would have time to do much or not, but I worry about the residue. Sunflowers are pretty big, and maybe there's smaller ones that don't, but I really like the oats and radish because come spring there will be hardly anything left of them. And I won't have to do any tillage. I won't have to worry about any residue or anything. It'll just be gone. So that would be my concern with sunflowers. Is your dad done with grading the fields? I don't know that he's done yet, especially in that one that we've been working in. But that rain we had last week, he got stuck before the rain. So after the rain, it's been a little too wet. He hasn't been able to do anything. He's been waiting for stuff to dry out. We have another field that was wheat that he's thinking about doing some surface drainage work in. Not nearly as big of a project, but he might work on that yet if we have time. He's waiting for me to get done with the big tractor is what he's doing so he can have his pans back. Who's Jack? Yeah, I've probably talked about it in a video, but not recently. So Jack is my uncle. My dad had 10 siblings in his family. There was 7 brothers and 3 sisters. So I have a lot of aunts and uncles, and Jack is one of my dad's brothers. He's a retired roadway mechanic, worked on semi-trucks for roadway for 30 plus years. And he comes up and helps us out from time to time. Would you have had better luck moving the Traveler to say 408 getting 2 inches of rain versus 5 inches on the same field? Great question. I thought same thing. And that's what we did the first year. We moved that pipe probably 5 times and we watered over 500 separate unique acres once and maybe some of it a second time. Wrong thing to do. Nope, it's not better off. Especially a year like this when we're as dry as we are. I learned very quickly that it is much better to stay in one spot and water the same thing over and over again and push those yields. Because let's say I had done that, and let's just throw some numbers out there. Let's say this year we're dry enough that our dryland corn is going to average 150 bushels per acre. Well, maybe if I would have irrigated 400 acres of that one time, I would have made those 400 acres go from 150 to 160. Maybe 165, but we got dry enough that it would have been stressed at another time and it still would have knocked a ton off the yield. You'd have to actually do the math, but okay, if we use 10 bushel for easy round numbers, that you gained 10 bushels times 400 acres, 500 acres, let's use 500 acres. That's right, 5,000 bushels, 10, no, yeah, 5,000 bushels extra, whatever that is. Okay. This year I stayed in one spot. I watered 130 acres, and I think my increase is going to be closer to 100 bushels per acre on those 130. And so if we take 100 times 130, that's all of a sudden you're up to 13,000. So it's way better to stay in one spot than it is to move all over the place. Plus the amount of work involved in moving that pipe multiple times. No thanks. Don't want to do that. Picking seed corn. Nice. Yep, I figured that was coming pretty soon. They're starting to chop silage around here too, so why don't you guys try to do strip till? And how much do soil types affect everything? Well, soil types affect everything dramatically, a lot. We don't do strip till because we never have, and we don't have the equipment to do it. I kind of want to try it, but again, we don't have the equipment to do it. So I'm trying to figure out a way to do it. It doesn't look like that's going to happen this fall, but it is something that intrigues me, and I am very interested in trying some strip till. Mike Mitchell is supposed to get an X9 last year to demo. Yeah, so I watched that video. Now, before I start on this, I don't watch Mike Mitchell's videos very often. I've seen a couple, but I did watch that one where he was going and looking over the X9. And I don't know his situation. I don't know what things. I don't know very much about his farm at all. I know it's big, but honestly, to me, he came off sounding pretty darn entitled. Like, what makes you special that you think you get to deserve to do that? And you know, it's Deere's combine. If they got other plans for it, or they don't want to give it to you, like, okay, maybe next year. Like, you tell them thank you and move on, dude. I don't know. I was a little put off with that because I don't know. Like, I'm not sitting here demanding an X9 demo for my farm. Why does? Yeah, I'll let that one go. And NH3 with NServe. Yeah, NServe would help with that fall application stuff, but I still would be pretty leery of it. I'm not kidding when I tell you there's literally no fall anhydrous put on here. I've seen one person do it one time about 10 years ago. That's it. Never, ever any fall anhydrous around here. Why it doesn't work. They were still doing... Okay, so Fort Wayne, that's not terribly far away, and they're doing it there, but... basically, anhydrous, it's NH3, and there's a lot of chemistry to it, but it converts to NH4 in the soil. NH4 is a leachable form of nitrogen, and so when we get our water running down through the soil profile, basically when the snow melts, we get all those big heavy spring rains, it's picking that nitrogen up, the NH4, and it's carrying it right out with the water in the tile, and it's not available to our plants then. It's gone. And so the closer you can put it on to the time the plant's going to use it, the better. We do some pre-plant. We haven't recently, but we have done pre-plant anhydrous before. We'll put it on right before we plant in the spring. And that's not terrible, but even then it's not my favorite thing to do because you're still 2 months from when the majority of that nitrogen is used. The corn plant's using more nitrogen the last 2 weeks of June, first half of July than at any other point in the year. That's when it needs to be there. It doesn't need to be there in April. Put a little bit down with your planter and then side dress the rest as close to when it's going to use it as possible. That's my theory. He's getting an ideal T10 to demo. Yeah, good for him. John Deere doesn't need that. So that's is going back to that demo X9 stuff. Like, John Deere's going to sell those combines regardless of whether he demos one or not. Yeah, they don't need that, and in my opinion, you know, he needs it more than they do. So how do you know when you're done with irrigation? Basically, the corn is finished when it gets to black layer, and I will show this as our corn starts getting there. It hasn't yet, but if you saw my video a couple of days ago, I was talking about that milk line in the corn where it, after the kernel's dent, and then that line where the starch versus the milky stuff is in the kernel starts working down towards the tip of the kernel. When that milk line gets all the way to the end, that corn plant is finished. It's not putting any more starch, nutrients, anything into the kernels, and what's there is there, what's not is not. It's done. And so once we get to that point, absolutely the corn plant does not need any more water. We would be done with irrigation. Now, that said, if I have plenty of moisture in the soil when that milk line is at 50%, there's probably enough there to get it to black layer without me needing to irrigate anymore. So that's kind of my target, is to have enough moisture in the soil profile at half milk line to not need any more. So that's kind of how I'm judging it. How did your farm get affected from that windstorm a few weeks ago? We were far enough east that it had died out by the time it got here. We had winds get up to like 40, 42 miles an hour, but no damage from anything. So we were fairly lucky. So it's all seed from crops be used to plant for the following year. I assume you're asking me if we save our seed to plant the following year. Absolutely not. Corn is a hybrid. You can't do that. So there are people that grow seed corn specifically for seed, and they'll take two different inbreds and plant them in the same field. Then the one inbred pollinates the other one, makes a hybrid across male and female plants, and then they grade and bag and clean that seed, and that's what we get by as seed corn. If you tried to plant the grain that you harvest, you would have absolutely horrendous yields. It doesn't work. It's called the hybrid vigor effect. On soybeans, well, I shouldn't say technically. The soybeans would grow if we planted them. They would be just fine. However, because of the technology that is in the soybeans with the Roundup Ready, the Extend, the Enlist, whatever it is, and the varieties themselves being patented, it is illegal to save soybean seed. We do not do that. We will not do that. Plus, I sell seed. So, no, we buy new seed every year. Does it bother you that people think a phone call will bring out the newest piece of equipment when you know it doesn't work like that? That's your the Millennium Farmer. It doesn't bother me. I mean, it is what it is. You know, that's part of the deal. I know for YouTube purposes, this new shiny equipment is great, and it would be nice if we could have all of that stuff on our farm, and I would get lots of views from it. But what you guys have to understand is how much this stuff costs. Like that X9 combine, it's literally $1 million plus for the combine and the heads, like 1.2 million. No, no. So you really have to have the need and be able to justify it. And a new 8RX tractor is going to be pushing $500,000. This stuff is not cheap. We can't just go out and buy it just because it's out there and it's the newest, latest, and greatest. So, we've done a pretty good job upgrading our equipment when we've had the means and ability to do so. But none of our stuff is brand new anymore. All of it's got a couple thousand hours on it, and it's still good. I'm not complaining. I'm just saying that it's not that simple. You don't just trade everything in every year and get all brand new for the YouTube. I don't make that much on YouTube, guys. It's not $500,000 a year business venture here. California, welcome. Have you tried any inline ripping? No. Ripping your bean ground in the fall, overtaking your time. No, there are people around here that do that, do some inline ripping and stuff, but I don't like having soybean stubble or any stubble and residue when I plant corn in the spring. My planter's not really set up for it, which I know it could be, but I like to start with it clean, and so we really like that 2730 ripper. It does a really good job. That said, I would try some strip till if I could find a way to do it. Yeah. Anhydrous with a sulfur. I've never heard of that. Interesting. Guys, you been getting any more seed buyers? I haven't really started pushing seed very hard yet. I did have somebody send me a message the other day about it and stuff, and I need to start getting on that a little bit more. I know all these seed companies are out pushing stuff in August and September, but I just, as a farmer, I hate that. And so as a seed dealer, I kind of like, well, if you guys want to, I'll take an order, but I'm not pushing it now. It's just, I'll start going out and talking to guys and saying, hey, I can get you a quote. Let me know what you're thinking. but I don't push putting orders in until we get closer to October, when some of the first deadlines and early pay time frame is. People have lost farms over replanting seed. Yeah, they have, and they should. I might say, like, I understand the draw and wanting to do that, but when, let's just hypothetically throw it out there, right? So, let's say your neighbor, let's say you and your neighbor both farm 1,000 acres of soybeans, right? Average seed cost on soybeans, we'll say, is $60 an acre. So that to plant 1,000 acres of soybeans, thousand or at $60 an acre, that's $60,000 in seed cost, right? Well, you go out and purchase that seed, and your neighbor pulls them out of the bin and replants them from last year. Now his costs aren't zero because he could have sold those beans. Let's see, say you were planting a bushel. Probably not a bushel. Let's just say a bushel to the acre for easy figuring purposes. 50, 60 pounds. That's pretty heavy, but we'll say. So that'd be 1,000 bushels. Yeah. Times $8. So their seed costs are $8,000, and yours are $60,000. Who can pay more for rent? Who can go out and buy that farm? It's not fair, right? So I don't have a problem with people getting in trouble for that when they don't follow the rules. Like, it's not fair. Did you look at or buy a jump box for your truck? Yeah. No, I haven't. I need to do that. Yeah, that sounds like a pretty good thing to get. I just haven't. So yeah, yeah, probably before fall even. I should do that. 7. Deere doesn't have it on their website. We're gonna go do the build your own thing yet. 850 was the number that I had heard, and there's 2 different models, so maybe that's the difference in them. I don't know, but yeah. Buy a crop duster and I'll come fly it for you for free. Dude, if I had a crop duster, I would be flying it myself. Like, that job looks awesome. Get any smoke there from us in California? Nope, not that I'm aware of. It was cloudy today, but I don't think that's smoke. So hopefully things aren't too bad where you're at out there. Pros and cons of using Golden Harvest corn with the Anagen. Oh, you've heard of Anagen. Yeah, so we actually raised some Anagen corn a few years ago. For those of you who do not know what Anagen is a corn that Golden Harvest has that produces alpha amylase in the kernel. It produces higher levels of alpha amylase. Alpha amylase is an enzyme that breaks starch down into sugar. And so what that does is 2 things. It can be either used in an ethanol production system or for feed, for livestock feed, generally beef, dairy, cattle, maybe poultry. Let's talk about ethanol first, because that's what we raised it for. So in the process of making ethanol out of corn, the first thing they have to do is grind the corn up and convert starches into sugars. The sugars then ferment using yeast, turning it into alcohol, or ethanol in this case. And so efficiently converting that, well, and when I say yeast, it's the enzymes in the yeast that are doing it. It's the enzyme that's alpha amylase, right? And so if you can add that enzyme, that alpha amylase enzyme in the corn, bred right into the kernel, and not have to add it in the ethanol making process, it makes it all way more efficient. Same thing in an animal, right? So let's say a dairy cow is eating some Anagen corn silage, and the first thing that animal are carbohydrates, which are then energy, help that dairy cow produce more milk. So animals and humans, all things that eat, produce alpha amylase in your digestive tract. It's in your saliva, it's in your stomach. It's what breaks food down. And so if you add that into the corn that the cows are eating, it helps them more efficiently break that starch down into sugar, and you get better feed efficiency, and they do a better job. So it's a great product. The ethanol plant that excuse me again, the ethanol plant that we had been growing it for got sold. It's under different ownership. They decided not to use the Anagen corn anymore in their process, so we don't grow it anymore. But I do have a customer. Hopefully, we'll have several customers this year that are using Anagen corn for feed purposes in dairy. And so it's a great thing. I really like it. It's awesome technology. And I hope that people start seeing the results and hearing about it so that we can sell it better because, yeah, it's really cool. Bloomberg said all you have to do is dig. Yes, I'm quite aware of what he said. And he's not wrong, by the way. Bloomberg was not wrong when he said all you have to do is dig a hole, put a seed in it, and it will grow. That is true. What he didn't acknowledge there is how to do it and make money profitably. Putting hydro shanks on the Selford and hydraulics so we can lift them. Oh, cool. How do you estimate it costs you an acre to run the irrigation? Yeah, that depends on how you figure things a little bit. If you don't factor in any equipment or time and you're just purely operating costs, which is basically, it's not that expensive. So we're running that generator, and it burns somewhere between 3 and 4 gallons per hour. And we can irrigate roughly 1 to 1.2 acres per hour. It depends on how much I'm trying to put on, but per inch per acre, I can do like 1.1 or something like that. So basically figure 3 gallons per acre per inch of water for fuel. And so for every pass that I make per acre, it's costing me $4. That's pretty cheap. We bought fuel for like $1.35 earlier this summer. So, okay, $4 or $5 an acre per pass. I've done 5 passes. We got $20 to $25 into fuel cost. I did put some fertilizer on there, but that's not really tied to the irrigation cost. That's just growing the crop. And then I've got a whole lot of time involved. So there's that. But also equipment costs. Now that gets spread out over multiple years and acres and stuff, so harder to come up with numbers there. What size of bean head? We have a 40-foot draper head, 640 FD. How's your day? Day is good. It's I don't know what time it is, but it's getting late, so we're gonna be wrapping this up here pretty soon because I need some sleep. We need some merch. Yeah, I've thought about that. Haven't pulled the trigger on it yet, but it might happen at some point. I'll keep you posted. Companies spend so much developing seeds, so it's expensive. Yeah, there's a lot of reasons that seed's expensive, and that's a big one. Research, development. We have Anagen corn also, 900 acres, all raised to the plant. Nice. That's good. 900 acres is a lot. We didn't, how much did we plant? We may have had 400 acres the one year. What kind of drone do you use? Looking to get a good one like yours. So I have, it's a DJI Phantom 3 Advanced. It's an older one, and honestly, it's not great. It was a really good one, top of the line, almost top of the line when it came out, but it's up now. The DJI kind of controls that market. The Phantom 4s are awesome drones. They've got some better features, obstacle avoidance and stuff that mine doesn't have. They're a little pricey. Honestly, if I was looking to buy one now, I would look really hard at the Mavic series. I think those ones will do everything you need in a little bit cheaper package. How are you not swarmed with bugs at the moment? Dude, it hasn't rained all summer. There's no bugs here. Nah, plus I'm in town and they spray them, so not usually too bad here. With your bean plot you hand planted back in March, it's looking so good. So are you going to be that guy that's planting beans in March? I will be if the weather cooperates. The problem with planting in March is we're never dry enough. There's never days to do field work in March like we would need to go out and plant beans. So while it's easy for me to say, yeah, I would absolutely go out and plant 20 acres of beans in March, the window still has to be open, right? I can't just go out there and mud them in. What pieces of equipment are y'all looking at upgrading next? Anhydrous Bar is on the list. Our drills, we've been talking about getting an air seeder to replace them for planting wheat for quite a while. That may or may not happen sometime in the near future. We might actually be buying something in the next couple of weeks. I'll keep you posted. It's pretty small, but seed tender. I'm still going to put seed tender on the list. Seed companies rip off farmers and consumers. Cargill family worth 100 plus billion. Well, I don't know how much Cargill's involved in the seed business. They're more on the grain side of stuff. But I don't know. I don't like high price seed either, but I understand it. And as long as everybody's on a level playing field, you got choices. There are competition. There is competition. There are competing companies. You don't all have to buy it from the same one, so it's not a monopoly. X9 is awesome. The X9 is awesome. Anagen's hard to find in North Carolina. Find yourself a Golden Harvest dealer. If you tell me where you're at in North Dakota, I can probably find one for you. Um, but yeah, are you looking for? Is there an ethanol plant in your area that uses it, John, or for feed purposes? Because that definitely makes a difference. How does it work with the water rights? Yeah, Ray, I talked about this at the very beginning of this video. Somebody was asking me about water rights, so you can go back and watch that for a longer explanation. But basically, not something we worry about here. We have plenty of water, and all I have to do is report at the end of the year how much we used. Nova Scotia, Canada, welcome. Did I catch up? Oh, I think I finally caught up. Have you had your Dr. Pepper today? I did this morning. I try not to drink any pop after 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I was up at night, so. Cool. All right. Well, guys, we are almost up to an hour, and I've caught up to the chat. So if anybody has any more questions, I'll give you a couple of minutes to get them in here, but I think we're going to wrap her up for tonight. I will try and do live streams more as we move into harvest. When I'm in a grain cart, it's a great time to do a live stream. So I should get some of those opportunities. Combine will be a little bit more difficult unless I can convince my wife to come and ride with me. So maybe we'll get her to do that, or I'll try and do it. But definitely getting ready to move into a busy season here in another few weeks, and things are going to get more exciting, and there's a lot happening. There's no shortage of things going on. So we'll have to stay tuned. Subscribe if you're not already. And hopefully you guys enjoy the stuff that's coming here this fall. I've almost been making these videos for a year. It's hard to believe it's been a year already, but yeah. Wheat. Well, our bean planter is a 1790 John Deere 15-inch planter with row units, vacuum planter. So it does not do wheat very good. We plant wheat in 7.5-inch rows. 10-inch rows would be okay. 15s are not. Thanks, Patty. Howdy from a tractor, Texas tractor mechanic. Welcome. Beer of choice. I'm not very adventurous. I'll stick with my Bud Light, Busch Light, Coors Light. Any of those are okay with me. I get made fun of a lot because I like reds, but yeah, those are my go-to, I guess. Grand Forks, North Dakota ethanol. Got it. John, if you really want more information from me, you should find my Facebook or Instagram and send me a message at Borderview Farms, please. Great channel. Good questions. Thanks, guys. I appreciate y'all watching. How many straw bales did they get off your fields? I have no idea. Haven't asked them. Good night. God is good. You are correct, Ed. Patty, I am married. All right. Good night, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll see you soon.